In previous lessons, you've seen me whiz through various steps to set up some aspects of the work files, but even though you've been following along, some parts of the process most likely seemed a bit mysterious. It's now time to take a closer look at the interface side of FileMaker, specifically layout mode, to give you a better handle on how things connect up. The first thing I'd like to talk about is how layouts relate to the tables and the data contained in your database. You can have as many or as few layouts as you like in a given FileMaker file, but each of them must be based on a view of data from a specific vantage point on the file's relationships graph. Now, in case what I've just said seems a little odd to you, let me explain. On the relationships graph, each box refers to a specific table. However, it isn't necessarily the case that there'll only ever be one box on the graph that refers to a particular table. Sometimes you'll have 2, 3 or more instances of a given table in different places on the graph, serving different purposes. Let's look at a practical example. When I was working on the relationships graph in a previous lesson, I connected the box representing the notes table to the box representing the assignments table. That means it'll be easy to add notes that relate to particular assignment records, tied to the assignment ID by the relationship defined here. But what if I want to be able to freely add notes that relate to other elements, such as quotations, or publications, or perhaps author records? As it happens, FileMaker lets me create additional boxes on the graph that refer to a given table, such as the notes table, and I can attach them to other places in the structure. To make it easier for you to see what I'm about to do, I'm first going to apply a colour to the box representing the notes table. Now I'm going to duplicate the box using the Duplicate tool at the lower left of the Manage Database dialog, and then I can attach the duplicates to other places in the structure. First of all, I'll attach the box named Notes to the Quotations table by linking the reference ID in Notes to the quotation ID in Quotations. Now I'll do something similar with the box called Notes 3. I'll make a connection between the reference ID and the publication ID in the Publications table. And for Notes 4, I'll make a connection from reference ID to the author ID field in the Authors table. I'm just going to move all of the table occurrences down a little so we can see what's happening and move the Notes 2 occurrence up a little so it's not overlapping anything. And I'm going to give each instance of the notes table a slightly different name that explains what its role is in the structure. So I'll double click on the Notes 4 box and change the name to Author Notes. Notes 3 can become Publication Notes. Notes 2 I'll change to Quotation Notes. And the original notes table can become assignment notes. You can see that if I roll the mouse pointer over the little arrow icon that appears at the top left of each box, FileMaker shows some additional information, including which data table the box is associated with. Of course, because I happen to have made the occurrences of the notes table all the same colour, it's fairly easy to see which of them point to the notes table even without rolling over the arrow icon. So at this point, I have 4 instances of the notes table, each serving a slightly different purpose in the database, and each seeing a different view of the other tables, and each being seen from a different vantage point in the structure. Now, because a table can appear multiple times on the graph, these boxes on the graph don't represent the tables directly, but are merely occurrences of the table at a particular position on the relationships graph. For that reason, they're often referred to as table occurrences, or TOs for short, to distinguish between them and the underlying tables they point to. In this file, I still have only 9 tables, but I now have 12 table occurrences. So there's a significant distinction between tables and table occurrences, and it's important to note that multiple table occurrences can be positioned in different places on the graph, yet may point to the same underlying data table. With that in mind, it will make some sense if I tell you that for each layout in the file, you get to choose on which table occurrence it will be based. Let me show you how that works. In this layout, the author's listing layout, when I go into layout mode, you can see that in the dark area of the status toolbar, it says that the table is authors. If I click on the adjacent pencil icon, the Layout Setup dialog appears, and here I get to specify which records to show. The options in the adjacent list aren't actually the 9 tables in the file, but in fact they're the 12 table occurrences, or TOs, on the graph. So we can see all 4 occurrences of the notes table listed separately here. That's how the layouts and the interface as a whole connect to the underlying data structure. Each layout is tied to a particular vantage point among the data connections you've created on the relationships graph, and through the graph to the base tables which hold the data. By choosing which table occurrence to use, I'm choosing a table context for the layout, and I'm also choosing which relationships to other tables, or if you like, what vantage point to the nearby data, will be available when I'm working on a given layout.